Good morning, Morai, Rabotai. Bruchim Habayim. We are continuing on where we left off in Masechet Succah on Daf Mem Hey Amud Bet, and today's Amud is going to be a very special one. We're going to go back in one element of the Mishnah and one element of the Gemara that we quickly did in the last shiur, and try to explain and better understand it. Today's Amud is being learned as a Zchut Refuah Shelema for Rachel Simcha bat Nahid, Michael ben Nahid, Rachel bat Edna, Esther Bracha bat Chaya, Rabbi Avraham ben Tashgol, that should all have Refuah Shelema b'toch Sha'ar Cholei Yisrael. Today's Amud is also being learned as a Zchut for the Neshama of Jacqueline bat Avraham and Agdas, the Neshama of Aliyah. This month's learning of the community has been dedicated by the Dayan family, Shea family, and Cohen families. It should be an ultimate zchut for all of their mishpachot. Be'ezrat Hashem, amen. Okay, so we started our Mishnah of the Mitzvat Arava, and there's something very interesting that kind of like Derech Agav was tucked away in the Mishnah, and that is, what would they say? Bechol yom makifin et hamizbeach pam achat. Every day, they would go around the Mizbeach, says the Mishnah in Memhei Amud Aleph, and they would say, Ana Hashem, Hoshiana, Ana Hashem, Hatzlichana. And Rabbi Yehuda would say, which you understand, it's part of the Hallel, right? It's part of the Hallel, and just like we say Hallel every day with Bracha and Chag HaSukkot, we can understand that the part of the Shevach Ve'odah that they would give to Hashem would be that. Rabbi Yehuda is the interesting part. Rabbi Yehuda is of the opinion that they would go around not saying Ana Hashem Hoshiana, Ana Hashem Hatzlichana, but they would say Ani Vahu Hoshiana. Now we are very accustomed to this because we say it too, right? Not realizing that it's coming from this Mishnah, but then you step back and he's like, what does that mean? And it doesn't mean, apparently, if you take a quick look at Rashi, it doesn't mean me and him, right? Because first of all, Vehu is not Vav Hey, Vav Aleph, right? It's just Vav Hey Vav. And Rashi here, very uncharacteristic of his normal method of explaining that the Mishnayot or the Gemarot gets very Kabbalistic, right? Says this actually is one of the holy names of Hashem. Ayin Parashat Beshalach, the 3 psukim that each one have 72 letters in them, and the mixture of them will give you 72 names of 3 letters each. And the way you do it is pretty simple, actually. You take the first letter of the first pasuk with the last letter of the middle pasuk, and the first letter of the third pasuk, and that is actually the first name is Vahu, Vav, Hey, Vav, and there you have the first one, and the second one would be the same method. You go forward in the first and third pasukim, and you go backwards in the middle pasuk, and you just line them up. You'll get 72 names of 3 letters each, and those are 72 names of Shemot Kodesh, and for some reason this one is the one that we choose to say by going around the Mizbeach, Ani Vahu Hoshiana. That's Rashi, right? There's a lot could be spoken about this alone. Yes?
Ani Vahu is not 72.
No, it's not 72. It's not 72 in Gematria or anything. Rashi actually is very interestingly, he says that he speaks about Gematria also, which is another uncharacteristic thing from Rashi to do. That's, if you take a look at Rashi, where he says in the beginning of the narrow lines, he explains, he says, Ot Rishona shel Pasuk Rishon, V'achora shel Emtzai V'Rishona shel Acharon, V'chen Bazeh HaSeder, Kulan Hashem HaRishon, all of them is going to be like that. Hashem HaRishon is Vav Hey Vav, Vav shel Vayisash, the Vav is of the first Pasuk Vayisa, Hey of the Kol Laila, right, which ends with a Hey, which is the last word of the middle Pasuk, and Vav of Vayet, which is the first letter of the third Pasuk, right? So that's how you have each one of these three Psukim have 72 letters, right? Exactly. And you line them up like that, you'll get 72 names of 3 letters each, right? So that's how it works. V'shem hashloshim v'sheva, and if you do this in order, the 37th name is Ani. So Ani Vahu are 2 of these Shemot that we have. Aleph, the Ma'acharehem, right? Ma'acharehem has an Aleph in the middle. And the Nun of Ha'anan, the first, Anan has 2 Nuns. The first Nun of Anan, Becheshbon Shel Mafreya, that's the second Pasuk. And the Yud of Ruach Kadim with the Yud, that would be Ani. Ani Vahu Hoshiana. So that is the understanding that Rashi brings in. And if you take a look at the very beginning of this same Rashi, which is the second wide line from the bottom, or third third wide line of Rashi from the top, it says Bigimatria. Ani Vahu is exactly the Gimatria of Ana Hashem. So instead of saying Ana Hashem Hoshiana, you say Ani Vahu Hoshiana. This is pretty Kabbalistic. Not like any Rashi that you find in Shas. Gimatria and Shemot HaKodesh and Kabbalah is like awesome, right? Beautiful. But here is another alternative. The Rambam, in Pirush Mishnayot over here, he says no. That's not, he's not disagreeing with Rashi necessarily. But Rambam, in explanation of this, Ani Vahu Hoshiana, Rambam says, this is coming from a pasuk in Devarim. In Parashat Ha'azinu, the pasuk says, Re'u ata ki ani hu ve'en Elohim imadi. See and look, watch now, that I am it. Ve'en, there's no other power with me. Ani amit v'chayeh, I am the one that kills, and I am the one that resurrects. Machatzti v'ani erpa, I'm the one that inflicts and hits. I'm also the one that would bring refuah and would heal. Ve'ein miyadi matzil, there is no running away from me. I am the only thing, Hashem says. I'm the one that brings you the actual Yeshua, the healing and the resurrection. So Rambam writes, Ani vahu Hoshiana. It's very interesting because Ani hu, right? That hu is a hey vav aleph, right? Hu means him, right? And Hashem is saying, Ani hu, I am that one. I am it. I'm it. There is nothing else. Right? To some extent, when we say Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, one of the basic understandings of the Rishonim is that we understand that Yud Kei Vav Kei is the name of Hashem's compassion, is the Shem of Rachamim. And Elokim is the name of Din, power, right? Judgment. It's the name of Gvura, the name of Din. And in the declaration of our basic faith to Hashem that we ought to do every single day twice, we say, Shema Yisrael, Yero Israel, Hashem Elokeinu, Yud Kei Vav Kei. When you experience the Midat Rachamim of Hashem, everything is amazing. Elokeinu, and even when you experience Elokim, the midah of judgment, you feel that you've been subjugated to the judgment, Hashem Echad. They are really the same thing, right? Every power that you experience, every experience that you have in life, whether positive, It's all the same, comes from same source. The Yud Kei Vav Kei Elokim is the one and the same. Ani hu. So Rambam says, when we go around the Mizbeach and we say Ani Vahu Hoshiana, we are tapping into this ultimate promise of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that you're going to come to see that Anihu, I am the one that resurrects. I am the one that machatzti, but I said Ani Erpa. Yes, I will bring the inflection sometimes, but you also promised Hashem Ani Erpa. Instead of Ana Hashem Hoshiana, say Ani Vahu Hoshiana. So that's the ultimate pasuk of Yeshua, the realization of that promise that HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, Machatzti v'ani erpa, I will heal your difficulties. I will resurrect not just the dead, but mechayeh et ha'chaim, right? That is what the Rambam writes, is such a beautiful thing. By the way, I heard in the name of the Megaleh Amukot, is from Bernstein in Lakewood. In the Megaleh Amukot says something fascinating. It said the brother of the Vilna Gaon, Rabbi Avraham Achiagra, he once said to him this pshat in the name of Megaleh Amukot. The holy Megaleh Amukot says there are 955 Reki'im. There are 955 levels of Shamayim. Right? Taf Kuf Nun Hey. And it says the first 900, there are Malachim, there are Seraphim, there are Ofanei HaKodesh. We spoke about this, if you remember, when we did the Gemara in Masechet Succah, Daf Gimel and the Daf Hey, that the Malachim put a name on the tefillah of a person and they send it up because they even don't know exactly where the makom of the Kisei HaKavod, the higher up areas, they don't even know. And we have this actually in the world of Kabbalah, that a certain area of Keter, right, the upper worlds, the Ariya Kadosh writes, we don't even talk about it. Nobody understands it. No Beriah, no creation could understand those higher levels of Kedusha. So he says the 55 top Reki'im, there is nothing. No Malachim, no Malach, no Saraf, no Ofanei HaKodesh is allowed there. And therefore, he says, we say, Hen is Gimatria 55. Right? Hen le Hashem, Elokecha Hashamayim, Ushmei Hashamayim. Says those Shmei Hashamayim, those top levels, is Hen, the 55 top ones, are la Hashem. There's nothing else over there, right? So the first 900, it is there, right? So says the Megaleh Amukot. Ready for this? It says Sefer Dvarim. Moshe Rabbeinu said in the last month of his life. Those are the words that Moshe Rabbeinu said. How you understand the Nevuah of Moshe in those psukim of Sefer Dvarim, Mishneh Torah, Ele HaDvarim Asher Diber Moshe, are exactly 955 psukim. And with each one of them, he attempted to pierce through one of the Shamayims, one of the Reki'im, high above. And he did one after another, piercing through these levels for 900 psukim. And when he uttered the 901st pasuk, he realized it's not going in. It's not. It's above his pay grade, so to speak, right? And still, those levels are there, but it's not things that you have tfisa on, because this is Hashem. Hashamayim, those says the Megaleh Amukot. Do you know? Take a wild guess. Which pasuk is the 901st pasuk in Sefer Dvarim? It's exactly the pasuk that we said. Re'u ata ki ani anihu ve'en Elohim imadi. Ani amit v'achayeh, machatzti v'ani erpa, ve'ein mi'adi matzil. That ultimate pasuk of Yeshua, that there is no malach, and no ofan, and no saraf. I alone, says Hashem, I am going to bring Yeshua for your makkah. That is the deeper understanding of this Rambam that brings in Perusha Mishnayot the pasuk. This is the ultimate pasuk of Yeshua that Kadosh Baruch Hu promises us, that I alone am going to step in, and that's what we call upon. Ani vahu Hoshiana. It's actually very interesting that the son of the Vilna Gaon, right? Rabbeinu Avraham, but not the Achiagra, but the son of the Gra. He added a little bit to this. You know, we say in the Kedusha of Keter, right? If you hand me a siddur, here, actually I have it here. We say, Keter iteru lecha Hashem Elokeinu, right? The Keter, we spoke about it just a moment ago, that there is this level of Keter, right? That even Malachim don't fully have an understanding and Hasagam, and in the way we mention it, in the Kedusha of Keter, again, the Nusach Ashkenaz and Nusach Sfarad are slightly different when it gets to this. But the way we'll do it from the Nusach Sfarad or Adot HaMizrach, which is pretty much identical, says, Keter iteru lecha Hashem Elokeinu malachim hamonemala. This Keter should be given to you through malachim hamonemala im amecha Yisrael, with your nation, Am Yisrael kivusei mata, yachad kulam kedusha lecha yishaleshu. Although all together say kedusha to you, kadavar amur al yad mirach, v'kara ze'er zeh v'amar kadosh, 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 amazing. And then you have kevodo male olam. Hashem's kavod is filled the whole world. Sharatav shoalim, but his malachim even ask, what do they ask? Ayeh mekom kevodo laha'aritzo. Where is Hashem's makom laha'aritzo? Right? Kevodo male olam. But there is an area that even malachim don't have that tfisa, don't have that understanding. Right? And on that he says, Hen ga'alti etchem acharit kereshit. Hen is 55. Those 55 top levels of Hashem, I'm going to do it. From a makom that there is no malach, there is no saraf, there is no nothing. There is nothing that I am going to do it. Hen ga'alti etchem acharit kereshit. The ultimate passage of Geula, of Hen ga'alti etchem acharit kereshit, beginning, the end. All of that is from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So, and that is what we are calling upon when we say, Ani vahu Hoshiana. Once we say this, maybe I could add a little bit of my own nofech, tosefet nofech, that the Gemara in Masechet Shabbat, Daf Kuf Lamed Gimal, the Gemara says something amazing. It says when we go around, you see, when you have in Pesach and Sukkot, you have Chol HaMoed, right? So this is, we're talking about the 7 days of Sukkot over here, right? You talk about, but there is even in Pesach, when you say Ana Hashem Hoshiana, Ani vahu Hoshiana, the experience of Pesach becomes the experience of Ze Keli Va'anvehu. We spoke about this yesterday a little bit, that the Ramban writes that a night of Pesach, when you tell them the mitzvah of the Seder night is Ve'igata levincha bayom hahu, that you should tell your son. What is the mitzvah of Haggadah? Ba'avur zeh asa Hashem li betzeti mi Mitzrayim. Because of this, HaKadosh Baruch Hu did this for me in Mitzrayim. And that's the mitzvah of Haggadah. That's the pasuk Kish alcha bincha lemor. Mazot You tell him, the mitzvah of Haggadah is not called mitzvah Tzipur Yetziat Mitzrayim necessarily, two separate ideas. We call it Haggadah because of this. And mitzvot tzrichot kavana, you need, at least the Deoraita mitzvot, they need kavana. So you have to understand, what exactly is the mitzvah of Haggadah? And the pasuk says, Ba'avur zeh, because of this. Now Rashi says, zeh, this is the mitzvot, matzah maror, but really the general idea of the mitzvot, that you're telling your kid, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu took me out of mitzvah to be able to do the mitzvot. That's the idea of giving over Haggadah to your kids. Ramban says, Al derech ha'emet, Al pi Kabbalah is more than that. Zeh, says Ramban, Zeh is a reference to the pasuk they said in the Shvi Shel Pesach, that when they went through the Ma'avar Hayam, they said, Zeh li v'anvehu Elohei avi v'aromer, this is my HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That deep understanding, that deep level of emunah that they had. And even though they didn't see any actual mar'eh, they didn't see any actual vision, the pasuk itself says, be very careful, ki lo ra'aytem temunah, you saw nothing. But they understood, they reached, they achieved such a high level that it became tangible for them. The relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to the degree that you can say, that is what you want to give over, to make HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And the Gemara there in Masechet Shabbat says that when you say Zeh li v'anvehu, Rashi explains, hitna'eh lefanav b'mitzvot. Right? You should choose to be beautiful in mitzvot. Lulav na'eh, you get the nicest lulav. Etrog na'eh, the nicest talit. When you do the mitzvah, you want it to be glorified. But the Gemara also says, Anvehu is ani vahu. Me and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The point of Pesach, the point of Haggadah is to realize ani vahu. Besides HaKadosh Baruch Hu, there is nothing else that exists. I glorify it because that's the only thing that counts. I glorify it because there is nothing else for me to concern myself with. Ani vahu Hoshiana could be a reference to this, that Zeh keli va'anvehu. Anvehu also comes from a language of naveh, right? It's my house. It's where I live. It's that intimate relationship of ani vahu. The Gemara says this, right? Anvehu is ani vahu. And maybe perhaps ulai efshar possible that this is a reference. Also ani vahu Hoshiana. It's anvehu. That relationship. We tap on that when we ask for Yeshua, that we have that. This is what brings that intimate relationship that we ask, we want to have with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's something so powerful and so beautiful to entertain. So we have three different unbelievable pshatim. We have the Rashi that says Ani vahu is Gimatria of Ana Hashem Hoshiana, and it's the two of the 72 names of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in Parashat V'Shalach, right? Ani, who, right? Who is the first one? The 37th one is Ani, and then you have the Rambam that says Ani vahu really is coming from that promise of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in Sefer Dvarim, the 901st pasuk of Re'u ata ki ani anihu ve en Elohim imadi, en Elohim imadi, I should say, right? Ani amit v'achayeh, machatzti v'ani erpa ve'en miyadi matzil, that ultimate thing of Keter, that it says, hen ga'alti etchem, the 55 last, and then you have this, our understanding, that when you say Ani vahu Hoshiana, you're really tapping on that Zeh keli va'anvehu, of Ani vahu, the realization of that relationship that we have with HaKadosh Baruch Hu in that level. And Be'ezrat Hashem, maybe tomorrow we'll speak a little bit about the next part of the Haggadah. I really meant to go through the next piece of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, saying that he could pattern up the entire world with his son and Yotam ben Uziyahu from the day that the world was created until the end of all time from Din. So how do we understand that? Be'ezrat Hashem, maybe we'll discuss that in next year. Hazaku Baruch.